Here we go again. American beer is back in the supermarkets in Canada.
Well, here's a question. If British Columbia was going to ban alcohol from Republican red states, what alcohol would that be?
Ooh, good question. Bourbon?
From where?
I don't know, Tennessee.
We'll Google it and we'll give you the answer at the end of this.
But it is the case that 24 hours after supermarkets in Canada are being emptied of all American booze, it's back on sale, and we'll tell you why.
Has to be a good thing. I'm James Matthews.
I'm Mark Stone.
And on day 16 of Trump 100, is the trade war with Mexico and Canada over before it began?
And can Elon Musk close America's aid programs with one comment on X?
Well, Mark, yesterday we had a bet, or you made a bet. Remind me of it?
I said that I reckoned that these 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico would not last very long.
Yeah. And you've won, right?
Well, yeah, but I should have put some money on it. But
you could have put a tariff on it.
I didn't think that that I would be proved right quite so quickly, but so I have.
Well, I tell you what, in terms of delivering the winnings, let's pause it for a month of negotiations and see where we are in 4 weeks' time.
Yeah, that's true. Because it is a 30-day stay, isn't it, for both those countries?
That's right, yeah. Tell us about it.
24 hours ago, Canada and Mexico were staring down the barrel of tariffs so large that it would genuinely disrupt their economies. Their GDP would be sent into a spiral. And I think there is no question that over the course of Sunday and into Monday morning, Canadian and Mexican officials were in proper panic mode. But in a very short space of time, on the face of it at least, both Mexico's President Claudia Sheinbaum, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, one after the other, have capitulated to President Trump. So Canada is saying, okay, we will secure the northern border. We will put 10,000 law enforcement officials on that border. Mexico has said that they will crack down on fentanyl supplies coming over the border. The Mexican president also said that America would crack down on guns going to Mexico. Trump didn't mention that as part of the deal that was put together over the course of the day. But basically, a deal has been reached, and the tariffs, both with Canada and with Mexico, are now off. They are on hold for 30 days.
Other countries, they might not be best pleased to see Mexico and Canada capitulating so quickly, perhaps the EU especially. Listen to Trump as he got off Air Force One on Sunday evening.
It will definitely happen with the European Union, I can tell you that, because they've really taken advantage of us. And, you know, we have over a $300 billion deficit. They don't take our cars, they don't take our farm products, they take almost nothing. And we take everything from them, millions of cars, tremendous amounts of food and farm products. So the UK is way out of line, and we'll see the UK, but European Union is really out of line. UK is out of line, but I'm sure I think that one can be worked out. But the European Union it's an atrocity, what they've done.
So, Mark, will Trump keep using this approach now, do you think?
Well, as we said over the course of the weekend, he appears to have three different tariff buckets, if you like. And the third bucket is the one that Mexico and Canada faced, which was, if you don't do what I tell you, I will put a 25% tariff on everything. So effectively, you're screwed unless you do what I say. The European tariffs are slightly different because they are not that he wants to get something out of Europe, but he believes that there is a deficit and that Europe is getting away with selling loads of stuff here, and yet they won't accept American goods. For the UK, it's potentially slightly different because we're not part of the EU. He seems to be suggesting, as he did in that clip, that maybe there is the opportunity for the UK to have somewhat better trade deal. But I'm intrigued by what's gone on with Canada and Mexico, because I did a bit of digging because I couldn't quite work out why they had rolled over so quickly. And it turns out they haven't really rolled over. If you look at Canada, Trudeau released this statement where he said, and I'll read it to you because it's important, the subtext is important. He said, Canada is implementing, not will, but is. Canada is implementing our $1.3 billion border plan. Nearly 10,000 frontline personnel are and will be working on protecting that border. So it sounded to me like he wasn't announcing something new, but actually was reiterating something. And sure enough, he was. It took one Google search to find a Government of Canada press release that came out last December, where he did announce what he has now reiterated. So it seems to me that what we have seen over the course of the past 24 hours is Trumpian theatre.
Political sleight of hand.
Yeah, Trump is asking them to do something that they're already doing. Trudeau is basically saying, look, Mr. President, we're already doing this, but if you want me to reiterate it, to placate you, then I will. Look at Mexico. Slightly different, because Mexico could perhaps be doing rather a lot more on the fentanyl trafficking over the border. But it is also the case that Mexico was already doing an awful lot and has already been working with the previous Biden administration to deal with that. And again, another quick Google search, it turns out, in fact, this is a US government release that says the US and Mexican officials are highlighting increased arrests and indictments for arms and fentanyl trafficking. Since 2023, Mexico has extradited alleged drug kingpins and so on. So what's happened is, I think, is that Trump has effectively walked everyone to the edge of the cliff. Yes, they freaked out because he's so unpredictable, and they do think that he would introduce these 25% tariffs.
Yeah.
So they've just reiterated what they'd already announced in order to placate him. So we've ended effectively with a show of brinkmanship from Donald Trump, which could have had a cliff edge ending, but instead ended with Trump looking strong, freaking out much of the developed world in the process, and his closest allies forced to reiterate their existing plan.
During a live audio stream on X on Sunday evening, Elon Musk, he made yet another significant announcement about the way the US government is run.
That we should shut it down. I mean, that's I want to be clear. That's, you know, I actually checked with him a few times. Said, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes." So we're shutting it down.
He's talking there about closing down USAID, the United States Agency for International Development.
Yeah, his boss, Donald Trump, later appeared to temper that claim a little, telling reporters this.
Run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
But regardless, employees at USAID received an email in the early hours of Monday morning telling them not to come into the office. And Marco Rubio, Trump's foreign secretary, confirmed he's been temporarily put in charge of the agency.
Yeah, remind us, James, what USAID is.
Well, it runs America's aid programs abroad, operates in more than 60 countries, delivering a huge range of support from famine relief to vaccines. According to the US government itself, it spent $68 billion on international aid in 2023. More than half of that, about $40 billion, was spent through USAID. So it's a huge department that employs over 10,000 people.
I mean, you and I have both spent, some of our careers on stories in disasters around the world. And I don't know about you, but I'm always struck that when you go to a disaster, very often the first people there are the Americans. And you see, aid packets, and they always have the stars and stripes on. USAID, it's everywhere. They're a huge organization with, tentacles everywhere, trying to help the developing world. It is American soft power at its very best.
Soft power, exactly, yeah. And that's where supporters of USAID see its value. It sells America abroad. It wins friends. It allows America to keep an eye on enemies in dark corners of the world, and essentially is a force for good. Not just for America and its national security, but also what it says on the tin, an outfit created to help people in need. The workers behind that, they're based at this building in Washington, D.C. We went there this morning, actually, Mark. There was talk of a demonstration. We were there early on. So these workers who were locked out, expecting them to turn up outside and demonstrate. There was one worker when we got there. She was a contractor, dealt with payments, kept an eye on abuse and so on, got a key role. She was a lone voice at that time in the morning complaining about what had happened.
Virginia's state motto is Sic Semper Tyrannis, which means thus always to tyrants. I hope we take that seriously and fight the tyrants that are in America right now.
You'd go that far?
I would. This isn't normal.
I do think that the methods that Trump's administration are using. I mean, whether it would be tariffs to America's neighbors, very, very blunt instruments, but also to organizations like USAID, that they're literally locking them out of their own building, like they've done something wrong. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah, and they're abusive. I mean, American friends I have here who work in the government, they're all nervous. There's a stream of patronizing emails, and they all feel on the verge of being given the push, frankly. Consider the climate. You've got this flurry of executive orders. Inspectors general, 18 of them sacked, watchdogs in high positions in very important cabinet offices, a purge of the FBI officials who were involved in January 6, being told, were you involved? Being sent this questionnaire. The Treasury, Elon Musk wants access to payments that are being made to people around the United States, access to social security systems and so on. So, Americans are watching this assault on the federal government by one man they voted for and one man they didn't. Or, as they call it here, Monday.
I'm reminded of something we discussed right at the beginning of this Trump 100 series. And that is that of those that voted for Donald Trump, and let's go back to that because I think it's important, of those that voted for Donald Trump, a proportion of them voted for him precisely because they believed he would do what he said he would do, like a wrecking ball through the federal system, because they believe in America first. Why should we be spending aid on faraway countries? We should be looking after ourselves first. That's why they voted for him. But another proportion of people voted for him because they didn't believe the rhetoric. They thought he's a good guy for America, but he's not actually going to do the stuff that he says he's going to do, is he? Well, it turns out he is going to do it.
That business of looking after America's interests, of course, the argument, among others, his opponents, is that putting money into USAID, taking care of American interests in the likes of Honduras, Venezuela, ensuring democracy or aiding democracy, good governments, that's good for America because you don't then have instability in your near neighbors.
And then you don't get migrants coming here.
Right, yeah. This is heading to the courts, isn't it? So this was created, USAID, by President Kennedy in 1961 by Congress, and only Congress has the authority to rescind that, to do away with it. There's been a lot of talk about where are the Democrats in all of this? Where is the Democrat voice? We'd done our interview, with one lone voice protester outside the building, came back to the office. Imagine our horror when we switched on the TV and outside there was actually about 200-300 people protest.
I said, James, where have you just been? You said, USAID, there's no one there. And I said, well, there's a few there now.
Yeah. So anyway, got back in the car, went back down. And sure enough, there was a protest. It was actually a protest because a number of Democrat senators had turned up. We caught up with two of those congressmen, Senator Chris Van Hollen and Representative Donald Byer.
And they didn't let you in? No, they would not let us in because they had orders from Doge and Elon Musk not to. So people should understand that this has been an Elon Musk takeover of AID, and we need to stop them here. This is part of a bigger plan, right? This is part of a plan to replace merit-based civil servants who are selected based on their qualifications, on what they know, on their experience, replace them with political cronies who are nothing more than political hacks.
Where does this go? To the courts?
Yeah, we'll go to the courts next, absolutely. And hopefully to the court of public opinion. The more people rise up and say no, the more Donald Trump hopefully will push Elon Musk back to Tesla, back to South Africa.
They couldn't get access, which I think says something in itself. Elected members not being able to get into a government building. But, 200, 300 people, I wonder if...
It's not many.
No, but it's more than I've seen, since Trump was inaugurated. Perhaps the beginnings of, I don't know, some kind of backlash.
Like, to extend your point, it is notable that world leaders, friends of America who might be uneasy with him, seem to be bullying, quote unquote, Canada, a NATO member, part of the Commonwealth. I'm thinking of Britain, or the fact that he appears to have shut down USAID, like wiping clean America's soft power with the swipe of a pen. You might expect that America's friends would feel comfortable in saying, we respectfully think this is a disastrous decision. Why are you doing this, America? Your soft power, your aid programs around the world are second to none. We don't think you should be doing this. Or Britain, not just a friend of Canada, but so closely aligned with Canada, might say to America, what are you doing? We haven't seen any of that. Why haven't we seen any of that? Because they are all very, very worried about criticizing Trump.
Uncertainty, Trump's big strength. Who knows, might become his weakness. Okay, Mark, so much going on that another big announcement from Donald Trump has been relegated to the end of this podcast.
We've both been wanting to talk about the USAID story for days, but there's so much happening. We've only managed to really talk about it today. And yes, another story that perhaps we should have been doing more on, the fact that Donald Trump has signed a flurry more executive orders, including one instructing the US Treasury to create a sovereign wealth fund that he said may be used to purchase TikTok. Remember, the Trump administration is still in talks with the Chinese-owned company over its continued operation in the United States.
And a sovereign wealth fund that's a government-owned investment fund. They take taxpayers' money and invest it either in the stock market or by buying companies like TikTok, for example.
More than 100 countries around the world have sovereign wealth funds, not entirely unusual. Most famously, countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and 20 US states have their own sovereign wealth funds, including Alaska. And Trump will, in theory, require congressional approval if this is to happen, unless he tries to bulldoze it through as well.
Yeah, and in terms of any other business, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yeah, we thought we might be talking a bit more about him today, but he's here in Washington, but he hasn't done anything yet, public at least. Tomorrow, I reckon there'll be a meeting with Trump in the Oval Office. I'm sure there may be a news conference tomorrow at some stage as well. We'll see, but that'll be a subject for tomorrow.
Yeah, all right, look forward to that. And before we go, the big question about US alcohol on Canadian shelves. Remember, the question was, what alcohol is made in Republican red states? And our producer Rosie has written the answers in our
Jack Daniels in Tennessee.
Jim Beam bourbon from Kentucky.
And Tito's vodka, of course. Yeah, I thought of that one.
Never tried that.
That's very good. Texan.
Oh, well, I'll take your word for it.
Come round and I will give you.
Oh, I look forward to that. And it says here, but Coors Light unclear, made in Texas, Virginia, Colorado. So was it taken off the shelves or not?
It's not very nice. So
we can answer that tomorrow. Send your answers on a postcard. But don't phone, it's just for fun. That's it for today. Remember, you can email us on trump100@sky.uk.
And if you don't already, but I'm sure you are, make sure you follow Trump 100 wherever you're listening. Leave us a review. We would love to know what you think, and send us your questions as well.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for day 16 of Trump 100. See you tomorrow for day 17.
See you then.